What's up? Dylan Siemens here with Onyx Coffee Lab, and on this brew method video, we are outside making coffee in an Aeropress. The Aeropress has three pieces to it. You have the plunge, you have the piece you brew inside of, and then you have the piece that holds the filter in place. I'm going to be showing you how to brew coffee on the Aeropress with two different methods. We're going to do a very standard recipe, a recipe that really makes high clarity coffees, and then we're going to do an inverted recipe. And this will produce a cup that's a little more intense. Both of these recipes are easy to do anywhere, outside, in your house, traveling, and that's what's great about the Aeropress. So let's get into our first recipe. I'm going to use 15 grams of coffee for this recipe. We're going to grind this coffee on a medium fine grind setting. Alright, awesome. After you have your 15 grams of coffee ground, we need to set up the filter and get ready to brew. Take the piece, screw it out of the base, throw your piece of paper in just like so, and then you'll tighten it into the base of the Aeropress. Pour a little bit of water through it just to wet that filter down. And now set it up on your cup, and we're going to brew our coffee from here. Throw the coffee into the base of the Aeropress, and now let's get into some specifics for this brewing. My first pour is going to be a bloom. Like I usually do, I'm going to pour about twice as much water as coffee there is present, or just pour to the one. That's what's really awesome about the Aeropress. You don't need a scale to brew on here, or you can be as precise as you want. But I'm going to pour the water to the one. It's about 50 grams. I'm going to give it a quick stir, let it bloom for about 30 seconds, and then I'll pour up to the top, just to the number 4. That's about 250 grams of water, and then I'm going to let it steep. So let's get into our bloom. I'm going to pour, and I like to spin the Aeropress just to get as much coverage as I can. Now just give it a quick stir, make sure everything's wet. Dry pockets like to form in the bottom of the Aeropress. And now we're just letting this sit. Awesome, so at 30 seconds, I'm now going to pour up to the 4. Whenever I pour, I'm going to start on the outside and just do that same spinning motion. This will let you touch as much coffee as possible. I'm slowly working my water into the center. And when I'm about halfway there, I'm just going to keep that stream going in the center of the Aeropress, filling it up to that 4 or to your 250 gram mark. You'll be done pouring by about 1 minute. And now I'm just going to latch the plunge onto the top to create a vacuum, holding the coffee, keeping it from draining through the bottom. And now essentially we're just letting this coffee steep. At 1 minute and 45 seconds, we're going to start a really slow plunge, try and plunge within 30 seconds all the way down to the bottom. Alright, let's start our 30-second plunge. Just apply a little bit of pressure, enough to start the plunge moving. This little bit of extra pressure is going to work to pull all of the solubles through the filter into the cup, along with some of the oils of the coffee. And that's why the Aeropress has a little bit of a heavier body. So this medium fine grind size with a wider ratio of 15 grams to 250 grams produces a cup that's really light, really easy to drink. And this will make just about 7 ounces. As soon as you hear a little bit of bubbling, you're done. Go ahead and just take that Aeropress off. And there's your coffee. Alright, now that you know how to make an Aeropress the standard way, let's get into making an Aeropress completely inverted. On this recipe, we're going to grind 17 grams of coffee, and we're going to pour 200 grams of water. So it's about a 1 to 11 ratio. This is going to make a much stronger cup of coffee. And it's also a lot of fun to make coffee inverted. First step, grind your coffee. For this grind size, I'm going to go medium coarse as opposed to medium fine, what we did on the last recipe. All right, now that our coffee's ground, set the grinder off to the side and let's set our Aeropress up. You're going to take the part you plunge with and set the wide base on the table. And now we need to situate the top part of our Aeropress sealed up on top so that your Aeropress is completely upside down. Now, let's get our filter ready. We're not going to use it quite yet, but I'm going to go ahead and wet it down right now. And now let's get into our brewing. So again, 17 grams of coffee goes on top of the plunge. And then I'm going to bloom the exact same way. Pour about 50 grams of water, stir it just a couple times to ensure that everything is wet. We're gonna let it bloom for 30 seconds. And then after that, I'm gonna pour right up near to the very top. That'll only allow you to fit about 200 grams. So let's get the bloom going. Again, you can do the same spin, touch as much as possible. Once all that coffee is wet, give it a little bit of extra water. And then make sure everything is saturated. We are now going to pour with that same pattern, stream on the outside, spinning the Aeropress, stream coming to the center, and then just pouring in the center. And then carefully take your filter and cap it off to hold a little bit of temperature. At 2-minute total brewing time, we are going to flip the Aeropress and plunge for 45 seconds. This is a lot longer brew time, a much tighter ratio, again making a lot stronger cup of coffee. All right, so now it's time to flip the Aeropress onto your cup and then press through for 45 seconds. Be really careful while you're doing this. Take your cup, set it onto the Aeropress, grab the base, and just flip it upside down, and then begin your press. Take your time pressing this coffee. If you go too fast, you'll tend to over-extract the coarse grinds. Again, once you hear the bubbling, you're completely finished. Set your Aeropress to the side, and there's your inverted Aeropress cup of coffee. All right, here are those recipes again for the standard and for the inverted Aeropress. But feel free to mess with any of these ratios, any part of these recipes. There's a lot of fun you can have with just experimenting with your Aeropress at home. So feel free to break out of these recipes. Also, if you want any of the merchandise you see me using here today, whether it be the Fellow kettle that I was pouring with, or the really awesome Origin Supply Aeropress bag, you can visit the merchandise tab at onyxcoffeelab.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helps you make a better Aeropress wherever you are.